Alrighty, everyone. Nathan back again, bringing you guys another episode of my Walking Dead review video. This one's going to be doing a review on The Walking Dead Season 4, Episode 2. This one's entitled Infected. Alright, guys. So, you guys have maybe already seen my predictions video for this episode. If you haven't, I uploaded it just this past Thursday. I recommend you guys go check it out. I did get some predictions right, so yeah, like I said, I really recommend you guys to go check that out if you want to see my predictions for this video. And if not, just I guess continue with the review video. Alrighty, so I'm not exactly sure what game you guys are watching. I haven't got a camera yet, so you guys are probably watching some type of zombie game. I'm thinking maybe State of Decay or something, but that's not really the point. So I'm going to mute the audio of the game and basically just let you guys focus on the commentary. Alright. So, as always, there are spoilers in this episode for Season 4, Episode 2, and basically just Season 4. So if you guys haven't watched the episode yet, I really recommend you guys go check that episode out, and then come back here and watch this a little later. Alright, so basically, starting off now, I'm going to go into a sort of a detailed review, try not to spend too much time on it, but anyways, yes, starting off. So the episode starts off at the prison fence, alright? It's the middle of the night, and basically a flashlight shines through the fence on the face of walkers. Someone's shining the flashlight on them. We don't know who it is. There's no light in the background to show us who it is. There's no indication of who it is. But yeah, someone is feeding them rats. All right, so this will come into play a little later in this episode when we find out exactly why they're doing this, really. But yeah, someone shines a flashlight in the middle of the night and tosses rats at the walkers, basically to lure the walkers towards the gate. What I'm thinking is basically they're trying to bring down the gate. They're trying to lead as many walkers as they can towards the gate and have basically a gate breach, a prison breach. Alright, so after that, it's back in the prison library. Alright, so it cuts back to basically what we've been seeing last week, but before we get started off on Zombie Patrick wandering around, we are in the prison library now with Tyrese and Karen. Okay, so they're basically making out. All right, so anyways, they're having a relationship conversation, nothing really important. But anyways, a noise basically startles Karen after they separate. She goes back to her room, he goes back to his room, and stuff like that. And a noise startles her, and she's basically going to get water and from in the showers, and she finds no one. She heard this noise and she doesn't know what it is, so she heads back to her cell. And now Zombie Patrick slowly arises from the showers after Karen left, by the way. So this is after Karen left, and yeah, so now we know what the noise was, but Karen doesn't. So Karen goes back into her cell and closes the curtain behind her, and Zombie Patrick follows. All right, but he was about to walk into the curtain, and then someone else made a noise in another cell. So now this is in D block, by the way, cell D block, and yeah, so this is, just keep that in mind, it's cell D block. Alright, so Zombie Patrick goes into another man's cell and basically starts eating him, as like he was a really deep sleeper, and he basically bit the guy's neck, just started literally eating him. And he started off at the throat, and the guy couldn't scream, so no one else knows yet. Alright, so back out at the prison farm now. Michonne is basically preparing to leave again, go out and presumably hunt for the governor, as she was saying back in episode 1 that she was planning on looking at Macon, and basically referred to the governor as him, saying that she hasn't found him yet. But yeah, she's preparing to leave again, and she basically asks Carl and Rick any requests, books, comics, stale M&Ms, which I thought was pretty funny, because apparently Rick likes stale M&Ms, so she says that she'll bring him some. Anyways, before she leaves, what I thought was pretty funny, Michonne asks Carl why he's not wearing the hat anymore, the sheriff hat that he got from Rick, and he basically says, it's not a farming hat. So I have a feeling he's probably waiting to put that hat back on when he comes and when he gets his gun back, and basically when it's time, But anyways, as Rick, I guess, gets to work by the pig pens in the field, farming, Carl mentions basically some of the others are trying to clear a cluster of walkers, the prison fences, and he says that he wants to help, and his dad says no, and they need to farm. So Carl, that was kind of a hint at what he was going to ask next, so he just kind of gets to the point and says, "Dad, when can I have my gun back?" And Rick he just smiles and basically changes the subject, doesn't really say anything. And, like, if he presumingly, he's probably thinking, if he's earned it back, or whether or not he wants Carl to have it back. Like, will he turn into the Carl like he was at the end of Season 3 when he killed one of the kids from Woodbury, or will he be fine now? He doesn't really know, so he just changed the subject. Alright, so now, all of a sudden, gunshots actually start ringing out of the cell block, which is D block, by the way, which you guys know. Obviously, Patrick was in and made a meal out of that guy. And Michonne basically turns around her horse and rides back to the gate, and Glenn basically runs out of his cell block and basically yells that there's walkers in D, which is D block, obviously. And Rick just throws down his prison work gloves, farming gloves, and runs to help. And now, Michonne attempting to ride back in and go help with the attack on the cell block, she's actually getting attacked by walkers. Alright, so Carl runs to basically assist her, grabbing a gun from a nearby shed and taking out one of the walkers. So, as you guys know, he doesn't have his gun. Obviously, Rick took that. And, so he grabbed a gun from a shed and basically took out a walker to try to help Michonne. And there was a walker on top of Michonne, and she threw the walker overhead into one of the spikes and basically twisted her ankle. Michonne twists her ankle and gets help from Carl and Maggie. Alrighty, so back in cell block D now. Now it's complete and total chaos in cell block D, and it's basically walkers that have turned from Patrick, and walkers that also other people have turned into walkers from having that flu virus, that new flu virus. All right, and they feed on people who haven't yet turned, obviously. And Carol basically runs in, protects the children, while Daryl, Glenn, and Rick basically take out the walkers. Rick still isn't in that position to lead. He gets thrown a gun, but he doesn't want to be violent. So he immediately, as soon as he gets a gun, he tosses it to another person. There's that. Alright, Glenn, Rick, Daryl take down the walkers, and Tyrese basically looks after Karen, his girlfriend. Alright, so Ryan now, which is the father of the two girls that were introduced to last week's episode, which is Lizzie and Mika, he's been bit. And Carol basically wants to amputate because she's seen that he's been bit on the arm, but then looks behind him and he's also been bit on the back of the neck too, so there's no point in amputating, obviously. So he basically asks Carol to look after his daughters as if they're her own, and she agrees. Alright, so now clearing basically the second floor of the cell block, Daryl sees dead zombie Patrick. Zombie Patrick attacked Glenn, and Daryl basically put him down with his crossbow. And so now Herschel, Rick, Daryl, and Bob, which is the Bob Stuckey, like the new character, and also the new doctor, basically kind of discuss what's going on. It appears to be a sickness, a fast-spreading flu, and it's basically infected some of the group. Obviously some of the group that's been in C block and in D block. So now that everybody is in D block, helping clear out, Rick, Herschel, Daryl, Bob, Glenn, they were all in D block trying to help clear it out. They could now be infected with this flu. So what they're doing is they're basically staying away from other people that haven't been exposed, perhaps, to this flu. So they're kind of keeping everybody separated. Now, what they're thinking, Rick basically tells them about Violet, which is the pig, and the dying boar that he saw in the woods the moment he met Clara, and pigs and birds. That's what they're thinking of how things spread, because as you guys obviously know, Violet, she was a pig, obviously, and she died, and also the boar, which is actually a male pig, died as well. So, wow, I had a voice crack there. I just woke up, by the way, too, so if I feel like I'm not talking as fluidly, that's probably why. But anyways, yeah, back in Ryan's cell now, Lizzie and Mika, which are the two girls, basically say goodbye to their dad. Alright, so Lizzie basically tells Carol that they should be the ones to stop their dad from turning, and she takes the knife, and she was just about to do it, and then she, I guess, breaks down. She didn't want to do it after all. So she basically starts hyperventilating, and the older sister is hyperventilating, and the younger sister, Mika, basically has to tell her to breathe. She's kind of taking the older sister role, But anyways, Carol then puts a knife through Ryan's brain and prevents him from turning, and yeah, that's how that went. All right, so now outside of outside of cell block C, basically hitting outside, Rick sees Michonne limping, and behind her are Maggie and Carl, obviously helping her. And Patrick, he basically says that Patrick's not sick, died, and attacked the cell block. He explains, basically warning them not to get too close to anyone who has been in cell block D, because they could be infected, they could be, exposed to the virus, and they don't. He especially doesn't want Carl to get it. He doesn't want anyone to get it, and he especially does. He needs to stay away from his daughter Judith too. So they're all planning to use cell block A, for quarantine, like people that have been exposed to the virus. So yeah, that's basically it for that. And yeah, so they're basically exiting their meeting, and Karen walks by with Tyrese, and she's actually coughing. Okay, so the council, which is Sasha, Tyrese, Glenn, Daryl, Herschel, they all basically say that Karen has to be separated from the group, because she doesn't want. They don't want the baby to get sick. They don't want anybody else that wasn't exposed to get sick. And Karen also says that David has been coughing too. Alrighty, so it's basically agreed they should be quarantined. Now think about this for just a second. This will come into play a little later. But Karen also says that David has been coughing too. Just remember that part. So Karen and David have been coughing. Okay? Alrighty, so anyways, yeah, so they're quarantined now. They're both going into cell block A with everybody else. Alrighty, so now on the other side of the prison fence, Lizzie and Mika both basically look at the walkers, and Carol tells them that they're going to bury their dad. But they need to talk about what just happened. Carol tells Lizzie that you're weak. If you want to live, you have to become strong. And she freaks out again, and yeah, she is kind of caring about the walker that she named last week in episode 401. And what if they kill Nick? She I guess kind of maybe has an attachment to him. I don't really know. I don't really get that part too much, but that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. So back at the prison graveyard now, basically digging a grave. Daryl and Rick are digging the graves, right? Okay, so Daryl basically says that he's thankful for Rick helping during the incident, and Rick says that he wasn't much use in there without his gun, and Daryl's like, yeah, not really, and yeah, you're not really useful without your gun. You're not really useful in any way without your gun, and he basically says when the shit hits, you're standing there with the shovel. As in to say, chime in anytime you want. You know what I mean? So he his role in the group now is kind of like to clean up afterwards, and Daryl really doesn't like that because it's been him and Rick almost through, season 1, season 2, season 3, and now that season 4 has come around, Daryl's kind of on his own. You know what I mean? So, anyways, Maggie runs over to Daryl and Rick screaming and saying that there's a huge buildup of walkers basically trying to topple over the fences. So, yeah, Rick and Daryl basically run over there. Alright, so now it's cutting off to Michonne's cell, and Beth is wrapping up Michonne's ankle, which obviously she twisted, and Michonne says that I was so stupid. They should have just left me out there. Beth explains, that they care about her and she's useful to this group. She's a really valuable part of the group, and they wouldn't just leave anybody out there. That's why Carl and Maggie put their lives in danger to help you. When you care about people, getting hurt is kind of, a part of the package. Beth explains to her basically. And now thinking about the new casualties, as obviously the people that have died in Cell Block C, she talks basically about how some people are left, widowed, sort of Rick losing Lori, the baby Judith losing her mom, and she basically then says, what do you call someone who lost a child? You'd think that someone would be giving a name, you would call a husband that lost a wife a widow, but what would you call someone that lost a child? Anyways, yeah. So back outside the prison fence now, as Rick and Daryl rush over, obviously, working as a team, basically, trying to take down the walkers as fast as possible, gather at the fence. Sasha basically sees something on the ground that is basically disturbing. And she basically asks, someone feeding these things, because she sees the rats on the ground. And as we know, at the first of this episode, we've seen someone, don't know who it is, obviously, again, seen someone throwing rats and feeding the walkers. So we don't really know exactly what's going on there, and yeah, so the prison fence really starts to topple. They've been taking out quite a bit, but not enough. So Rick basically tells Daryl to get the truck, and he knows what to do. So now inside the prison, Carl is basically making crosses for the dead. And Carol comes in and basically asks if he told his dad yet about the Walker self-defense class that she's been teaching, as we've seen in episode 401. And Carol says, I have to keep teaching those kids to survive, and you know that. And she basically asks the kid not to say anything. And Carl says, I'm not going to lie to my dad. And she's like, I'm not asking you to lie. I'm just asking you not to say anything. So now back to Michonne's cell here, and she's doing exercise with her good leg, keeping her ankle that was twisted kind of elevated. And Beth walks by, cradling Judith and singing a song. And yeah, so we get Taylor Swift back now. Anyways, I always found that kind of funny when people made analogies like that. But anyways, Michonne basically, I guess, kind of asks her about the lullaby that she was singing, and the baby basically starts to spit up on Beth, and she asks Michonne to hold Judith just for a second because she, got spit up all over her shirt, and Michonne kind of just yells no, randomly just yells no, and she doesn't want to do it. We don't know exactly why yet, but I think I know. Alright, so now she finally decides to hold her as Beth walks away to try to go get changed and, get all clean. And Judith is crying, and Michonne basically looks at the baby and, starts crying. And she hugs Judith, and we don't really exactly know what that means, but what I'm thinking is, in the comic book, spoiler by the way, if you don't want to know anything about the comic book, look away from the video now and come back in just like I'd say 20 seconds or so, because it's not that long. But in the comic book, there was actually a backstory on Michonne having a miscarriage. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, there's a backstory on her having a miscarriage. So there's that. Alrighty. So now, basically in the fields outside the prison, Rick has his idea in motion, and Daryl is driving the truck, and Rick is in the trailer in the back, and we don't exactly know what they're doing, and they seem to be leading the walkers away from the fence, and then Rick reaches into the wagon and pulls out a piglet, and we really weren't expecting this at all, but he slices its leg and puts it on the ground, kind of just leading the walkers away. He has to sacrifice the piglets. Now that this new flu virus is here, the piglets obviously could be infected, so they're not useful for food anymore. So that's why they did the whole sacrificing the piglets to lead the walkers away from the fence thing. So yeah, he does this 2 more times with 2 more piglets, and yeah, now over the fence, Glid and Sasha basically reinforce the fence with wooden beams, Alright, so now on another side of the prison fence, it's back to Lizzie and Carol. And Carol points out to Lizzie that those are walkers. Nick is a walker. You don't feel bad about a walker dying. You feel bad about your dad. You loved him and he's gone. Just basically trying to tell her that, get that point across to her. And yeah, Lizzie kind of seems to understand and takes the knife from Carol and puts it inside of her sheath. So yeah, back at the pig farm now. Rick is dismantling the pig farm, obviously, because they don't have any more pigs left, and he starts burning up the wood. And the reason why the wood obviously could have been contaminated because of the pigs, so there's no reason in, reusing the wood or anything like that, trying to burn any disease away that was there before. And yeah, so Carl asks Rick, you think the pigs made him sick? Referring to Patrick, and Rick basically says, or we made the pigs sick. Carl fesses up basically about Carol's knife class, and their parents don't know, and she doesn't want you to know. And basically that's what Carl says, and advising his dad to let Carol continue teaching the kids, because that's what's important, survival. You need to teach a kid how to survive. That's what you gotta do. Now Rick is tossing the gasoline basically around the pin, and sets it on fire. He says that he won't say anything, and he heads over to his toolbox. He hands Carl his gun back. He gives Carl his gun back, and then Rick puts his own gun belt back on and puts the Python in the holster. So now we know that Sheriff Rick is back, so I think that'll be pretty cool for next episode. I don't think it's going to be old crazy Rick. I don't think it's going to be decision-making Rick. I just think this is a precaution, you know what I mean? Because every time something happens, Carl can't always run to Rick for defense, so he needs something to defend himself. Alright, so now back at Cell Block A, the final part of the episode, Tyrese is smiling and carrying flowers as he heads towards Cell Block A to visit Karen. She's gone. He gets to her cell and she's gone, and he basically sees a stream of blood, and she follows the stream of blood from her cell through a hallway and outdoors into a part of the courtyard that's fenced in, and Tyrese basically stops in his tracks as the blood ends, and he just looks down in horror. By the way, great acting by Tyrese. He just the expression on his face was just actually really believable. It was really, really well done. Anyways, he sees a gasoline can off to the side, and smoke rises off of 2 bodies, off of 2 burnt, crisp bodies. Someone poured gasoline on them and obviously killed them. Now, the 2 people that were there were Karen, his girl, and David. Now, like I said before, you had to remember that David was also coughing too. So, if you think about it, 2 infected people that were coughing a lot are now dead. Someone burned them. We don't know who it is. We have no idea who it is. Someone could be attacking a cell block from inside, working with the governor. We have no idea who it is. Okay, but we can only expect next episode to get Tyrese want to get revenge, obviously. And yeah, that's going to be really, really interesting. So Someone is inside of the prison and basically just wanting to take out the infected people so no one else gets infected, so they don't get infected, trying to protect themselves. Or it could be just some sort of a evil plan on a part of the governor. It's not really, you can't really tell at this point. So we don't really know exactly what's going on. We don't know who's doing it. I have a few theories, but I'm going to hold off on those theories until maybe a predictions video in the near future. And until then, guys, that's it for this review video now of Season 4, Episode 2 of The Walking Dead, entitled Infected. Look forward to the prediction video coming this Thursday, which is October the 24th. It's going to be a prediction video on The Walking Dead Season 4, Episode 3, and this one is actually entitled Isolation. So yeah, that's going to be really interesting. Obviously, isolation, I believe, will be referring to, everybody that is sick and infected from that virus, people that are coughing, people that are wheezing, stuff like that, are going to be obviously isolated from the rest of the group so they don't get anyone else infected. So I think that's what's going to be happening next episode. So that'll be really interesting. So look forward to that prediction video coming this Thursday. And I guess until the next review video or the next prediction video, I will talk to you guys later. And yeah, hopefully you guys did enjoy. And if you did, hit this up with a like. And subscribe to my channel for future review and prediction videos of The Walking Dead and other videos too. Alright guys, I'll talk to you later. And yeah, bye.